Welcome to the Scottish Paranormal Podcast. I'm your host Chris, and we'll be delving into the multitude of strange occurrences that happen within Scotland. Please contact us with your accounts at the Scottish Paranormal Podcast at gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram and YouTube, and feel free to contact us by either means. If you like the episodes or the podcast, please share it with your friends and family to help us grow. Join us on the journey and let's see what's out there. Tonight's episode, we're on location in the Bathgate Hills with David from West Lothian, recounting his strange encounter with the Silverman. We're in the Bathgate Hills, covers one of the kind of mining towns of the area, you know what I mean? So this is a prominent hill in the background. There's ancient burial mounds and a wee bit of forestry round about. So this is like Davy's story. Is it David? Davy's story? Davy? Called Davy or David?
Whatever you like.
Alright, okay, called Davy's story.
I've been called a lot of things.
And from there, it's just a really interesting story when I found out about it, and I wanted to hear more about it. So if you want to just start off with there, what age were you at the time when it happened? And
Right, it was 1988. Now, I was a mature student nurse at the time, and I'd been through half the course, about a year and a half. So I'd done my first training up in Bangor Hospital. Then I moved to the village. Bangor village. I was in my second ward in the village when the incident happened. I would say I would be, ages wise, maybe roughly about 29, something like that. So I was a mature student,
Aye.
But that's when it happened.
so even going through motions, where you're obviously coming from, you're coming from Bathgate and going towards Lennox. No, I mean, so just go through the motions. What happened for them?
Well, what happened was
and then we went into what happened after and stuff like that.
It was like the normal stuff. We'd have dinner and stuff like that, and then we'd pack the wains into the car and head off into Bathgate to do some shopping. Right. At the time, I'm sure it was a Tesco that was on the site of Aldi's at that time.
What date was that about?
It'd be 88.
88. Right.
And at the actual time, I'd say it was a crisp night, maybe October, November, but it was a nice clear night.
Aye.
A bit crisp cold, and we came shopping, and I came up the back way for Bathgate. We lived at Limefield at the top of Bathgate. So you come up the back way and you come to the crossroads, and you either take a right to head down home, or you take a left to hit the hills.
Aye.
Well, I always had a wee game with the kids when I came up there, because it was my first car and stuff like that, and the Waynes loved it.
Aye.
So anyway, I'm coming up there, and without fail, I would play the same game. Right, I'd say, okay kids, what direction are we taking? Are we going right or are we going left? Go left, Daddy, go left, get the usual to go up the hills just for a run.
Aye.
So I would indicate right, and I'd be, again, and then of course I'd get to that, and then off I'd go round left, and it was, yeah, again. So that was the story, and that happened basically every time I went shopping. They must have got sick of it, but
I do stuff like that myself.
I still do that.
You play with the kids, So we comes up here, we comes up by the Clintonstein and along the road here. I'm not thinking and just to give the Waynes a run. It was pitch black, again it was night, but the Waynes just wanted to get out a bit. So I was quite happy. So I'm driving along here, and as I get to this area where we're standing, just before the hill, to my right, there was it was like a quick flash, and it was gone. I mean, this happened, I always say, light up, said okay, Corral, took 30 seconds.
Aye.
Right, and it was there for the rest of his life. This was less. This was about, what, 10 seconds worth. Oof. So I'm heading up the hill, and I'm still wary of that dangerous corner. So I gets up there.
So you seen the flash on your right side?
I seen it to my right side.
Aye.
And it was running, well, you'll look at the direction, but it was running here to my right, and there was a semicircle of trees at the time.
Aye. So on the road, basically, your left-hand side, there's adjacent fields. On the right, there's
right.
a clearing, then it breaks into forestry. Then there a wee.
As you see, there's a bank in here now. That didn't exist. There was a fence, a wee wire fence. It ran through the fence, which is crazy, but it ran through the fence, and it ran in a semicircle against the trees. Now, with being black, everyone was black. It was actually, the kids called it Silverman.
The Silverman,
right? But it wasn't silver. I'll get to that. So anyway, it's running through here, and it was a quick flash. It's just a quick turn of the head, and I'm back on the road again, and I'm watching, and that thing's burned into my eyes. I can't see anything else. So I gets to the top of the corner, round I go safely, and my wife said, "You saw that, didn't you?" And I was in shock. There was something just, and I said, "Saw what?" And my oldest son said, "Did you see the Silverman, Daddy?" Right? And after that, there's no memories. There isn't a memory of it. I can't tell you how I got home. Because, I could have went all the way round. It's about a 7-mile drive to go round into Bathgate and back up to Lingfield. Or I could have went to the Nook car park and turned and be back home in like 3 minutes. But I can't tell you how I got home. I also can't tell you what we did when we got home. I can't even tell you how I got to my work the next day. Everything was just like, it was gone. Ken? And no matter how much I've tried to remember it, that's another story, but I've used techniques to do that, but I could not remember, and it took me a while to understand that.
So we'll go into that, like going back to when you first initially seen the flash of it,
right?
And I know you said one of your kids had seen it initially, and they said it was doing its honkers or kind of like kneeling down, but like crouched down. What kind of height would you say that was probably?
Right. Okay. Description.
And what kind of
it was
body type you reckon it had?
I'm going to say to you, it wasn't silver. Right. That's coming for the perception of a wee boy. Eh? He's seen this thing glowing and seen it silver. It was merely an ethereal type light, like I've often described it as being like merely like a plasma. Another way to describe it is if you put a negative figure against a black picture, if you look at the negative of it, a figure comes out, it was like that. It looked like a negative.
But you could probably see through it, or was...
I didn't get the time to see
through
it.
Just it was that fast.
What I saw was, as it was running, in that split second that I looked across, it was in a full running position, that way, going that way. And it was looking back at the car, and it was snarling at us.
How could you tell that it was snarling?
Well, there's a question, because it didn't have a face. And that's another thing that's...
Was it just a feeling, or...?
No, it was snarling. My wife, we used to talk about this often. And it would just be like brainstorming. What can you remember? What did you see? What did you do? Ken? And we're brainstorming, and things would suddenly, wait a minute, Ken? How could it be snarling if it didn't have a face? Yeah, these these questions, they're bamboozling.
Aye, totally.
They are absolutely bamboozling. But as to the height, I would estimate at least 7 feet tall. At least.
That big,
it was big, and it was bulky. It wasn't a slender thing, it was a bulky thing. It had good shape about it, Ken. Put it this way, you wouldn't want to meet it. As I say, we got up there. It was, to recap, it was about 7 feet tall. It was merely a plasma type being, right? It didn't have a face, but it scowled at us looking back at the car, as if I'd frightened it. And if that's the case, we all other reports have had it.
Or interrupted it.
We were the only ones that's ever scared it.
Aye.
But that puzzles me as well.
The snarling part, is it mere a feeling you
No. It was snarling. It was looking back at us like, if I could, if I get my hands in you that sort of way,
Aye.
But I was just glad I was going the opposite direction. It was coming this way, I was going that way. Ken. So, as I say, after we got round the corner, it's a different story when we get round the corner. And when my laddie, as soon as my laddie says, "You saw the Silverman, Daddy," everything stops. There's no memories. No memories whatsoever. It stops dead. Right? And it's a thing that I've always wanted to go to a regressionist or somebody to
Go
take
back
me
to it.
back there.
Aye.
And at the time, I just couldn't afford things like that.
Aye.
Well, through the years, I became a counsellor and a hypnotherapist. I've got an advanced diploma in regression, hypnotic regression. Now I've got all these things.
Aye.
Ken, but no back then.
Even back then, you don't know how to look for back then for the fact that there's no internet then. You know what I mean? It's 88,
It was a different
you know what I
world.
mean? It's a totally different
You know,
world.
you're-
Aye,
you're
aye.
the
There wasn't
big
even as
phone,
many cars on the
all
road,
this
you know what I
sort
mean,
of
as well, that's the thing.
Aye, it was a different world.
It's
back
like
then.
even probably back in the days, they would come round here, you'd be up the Bathgate Hills in a
Aye.
CB,
Aye.
you know what I mean, rather
Aye.
than have an iPhone or anything.
That's it, eh? But as the story, as I tell you, it's how quick the incident happened. That's the story.
Aye.
See the atmosphere in the car, kind of driving past when you witnessed it. Was it a kind of fearful?
It was just utter silence. There wasn't a word. Nobody said a word. And you've got the kids, they were bouncing up and down and getting the usual.
I often think kids are really receptive to stuff. So
Well-
they're a good barometer.
Aye.
If it was a scary thing or it was just a thing you saw, or
Well, we used to plug the school in secondary school, and this was it. This was your stamping ground. Up the Furries, the Furwoods, as we called them, up in Oak Forest. And we had wee shelters up here, and never ever did I feel like that.
Once you kind of went back to
Well-
work and stuff like that, and
As I say about, I've no memory even how I got to my work the next day, how I arrived in the ward, but I knew I was in the ward. And I'm the type of person that wind me up and I'll keep talking. And I'm like that. I like to talk and I like to communicate. So I just, for 3 days, I shut down. I went to my work. I'm a student nurse. I'm supposed to be impressing the staff. I sat in the ward and done nothing. I just sat there. And of course the staff, being caring people, they were coming up and saying, "What's wrong with you?" And I'm just saying, "Nothing." You can't say, "I've seen a Silverman." Ken, they wouldn't have let me out. Ken, that's what I was scared of. But you couldn't say that, Ken. But they were concerned, and I'm just saying, no, I'll be fine, sort of thing. Well, it lasted about 3 days. And even the patients were coming up.
aye.
Again, these people were seriously mentally ill, very psychotic and all that, and they knew there's something wrong with me. Okay. So it took the 3 days, and I decided, I thought, I can't go on like this. I've got to put it to the back of my mind and get on with my career and finish my nursing.
Aye.
And basically, that's what I tried to do. I thought I'd succeeded with that, but it just, every now and again, he just arrives, he just appears, getting in my mind.
Aye.
And he's back again, and there's other questions. There's more questions. It's just never, ever went away. It never will. And that's going to be with me the rest of my life.
Totally.
It's my ways, that was serious. That was a serious.
Oh, totally, aye.
But I've searched research, I've got a lot of other sightings here, right? And sightings in Fife, the same thing.
Aye. See, that's the thing as well. It's like, that's what I want to try and do is get a platform to get people's stories out there, because a lot of these stories just get lost between families, between friends,
Well,
and they don't go any further. You know what I mean? Or sometimes a day. You know what I mean? But
To tell you how the Silverman appears in my mind, he's there, right? I was going for a minor operation, and I was up St John's, and I was getting prepped, and they wheeled me into the wee room for the prep, and the nurses put my bracelet on, and she lifted my wrist to take my pulse and stuff, and she said, "Are you the David Coleman?" And I'm like, "What?" Ken? And I thought, I've worked in theatre, you know, I thought, I ken their cookie, Ken. They like a laugh and that, and I just sort of went, "Aye, that's me, I'm the David Coleman." I just laughed, And she says, "I've always wanted to meet you." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, what's this about, Ken?" And I says, "Why, Ken?" She says, "You saw the Silverman." And I was like, "Oh my good God." I'm getting ready for prepping for surgery.
Aye.
And here he is again. And she says, "I would love," by this time I'm getting appealed to the theatre doors, and she's sort of behind me, and she's saying, "I would love to hear the story." I says, "Look," I says, "contact me on Facebook, contact me, and I have no problem, I'll give you the information you need, So it set me thinking, how am I going to explain this to this lassie again? So I thought, I'll write it down. I love writing. I write everything here. So I'll write it down. So I started writing, and it just didn't stop. It went from the Silverman to the other events on this road. It went on to other events in my life, haunted houses and all this, you name it, I've had them all the psychic stuff.
Yeah.
Some of it, not all. Some weird invitations up here as well, but that's a different story. So I started writing the story.
Aye.
So as I'm writing it, I sort of put it out there, and I thought I should really see if other people, local people, have had these things. So I put a feeler out on the Facebook and that, and bang, all these things started coming in, local. And I'm like, my good God, Ken, I didn't realise, and this is fairly recent. Where I've parked the car just now, there's a couple there.
Aye.
As well as the walk up. Various sightings, and I've put them as an appendix, and I've made it like a sort of a paranormal biography, if you like, as to what's happened to me.
Aye.
Right? It sounds, I hate this. I'm quite a private person.
Aye.
Anyway, but to write it all down, I thought, well, maybe I should. I'm a baby boomer and I'm getting there, I'm pushing on, so maybe I should write this down for posterity. So I thought, I'll do that. So I'm in the process of doing all that. I think I've got 70,000 words now. So I was working on it this morning.
Right, good.
So, but that's what's happened due to that. But there's that many other things that's happened to me. And on this road, as I say, there's been 3 incidents, but you really don't want to ken that.
I don't know, we could still talk about them now if you want. I mean, in terms of, is it the Silverman or is it...
No, completely different. Completely and utterly different.
The area, obviously the area being, I mean, it's
the Silverman's
right,
well,
it's right slap bang in the middle of the alleged Falkland Triangle, you know what I mean? So,
yep, aye,
we're right in there.
I've seen umpteen UFOs and videoed them, and had a flyby close 30, 40 feet up, and I had all these sort of things happening to me. But as I say, when I'm writing, I've always felt there's a hand shoving me along. Right, here's the next thing for you, and here's the next thing for you.
There's so much more. There's so much more there. You know what I mean? And that's like we've been interested in this for years. You know what I mean? In a sense, you know what I mean? But just on the fringes and stuff, and it's like, but there is so much more there. You know what I mean? And if people made it, if people did relay their stories more, then it wouldn't be as a fringe topic. So the other cases that you heard of other people seeing stuff, what did they see? Do you know, did they relay any stories to you?
It's varied. It's varied. It's gone for small beings with hoods, right? Hooded up. Now, I hadn't really heard anything like that, so I'm like, okay, I'm in no position to dismiss anybody for what they tell me. I'll be sceptical and I'll question things, but if you tell me that, I'll go, well, if that's what you saw, that's what you saw. So I got that story, and within the days, I've got somebody else contacted me saying they're getting things coming into their room at night. They're small beings with hoods. And I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah, and this is happening.
Well,
these are people unconnected.
You hear these stories getting relayed time and time again. You know what I mean, the same stories.
Well, these people are telling me this is the 2 of them are in Bathgate, right? In different areas of Bathgate, but they're not connected. They don't know each other. At the time when I used to, I founded the Scottish Unexplained Phenomena Research. I got into everything. I got dragged into it. I've got to say that I got dragged into it. I'll tell you a wee bit about it. And it was everything for UFOs, ghosts, big cats. There was 2 big cats wandering about Bathgate down the streets. Aye. One of them, the guy had chased it, he'd taken his hat off and flung his hat at it and all the rest of it. And another one was walking down Ann Street in Bathgate. A panther.
There was recent ones as well where
sounds crazy, but
I know it does, and that's the thing. It's like there was recent one as well where like somebody had photoed one up in Dunfermline, up next to that neck of the woods and the fields and stuff like that. And I was looking at Paul Sinclair's stuff down in Yorkshire. I mean, so down in Yorkshire's like the same kind of thing happening.
I've heard the name. I've not
on the east coast of Yorkshire, they've got the same kind of idea. There's UFO scene, there's cryptid scene, there's a lot of different stuff. You know what I mean? So, and it was looking into that, and then it was this story popped up in between looking at stuff on the net, and that's when I was talking on the Bathgate Hills group and stuff like that. And I was talking to you on it, but I spoke to you like just a couple of messages about stuff.
Aye.
And then it was like, oh, that's the actual guy, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? So it was later on when I kind of twigged about that and I'd contact you. You know
Well,
what
for 1988,
totally interesting story.
you
know
are
what I
the
mean? It's
only
like,
one that's actually came to me, face to face sort of thing, and
Aye.
asked me what's happened. Everybody else is like getting a wee story off the internet. That was done because of a freelance reporter that conned me.
aye.
And I just did not want to be in any papers or anything.
Aye,
I
I
wasn't interested
understand,
in that,
understandable.
But I wrote a letter to Flying Saucer Review, brief letter just explaining what we saw, and did anybody else see it, because I was so desperate to know that we weren't on our own,
Aye.
if you know what I mean.
Oh, totally, aye.
I mean, you really feel as though you're isolated with this. You're thinking, am I the only person in the world to see this? Am I going crazy? Yeah. But clearly I wasn't. But apart, there was a freelance reporter. It's just a random call. And the wife says, so I answered the phone, and he says, my name's so and so. He came from Liverpool. He says, I've just read your letter in the Flying Saucer Review, and of course I'm delighted.
Aye.
I'm thinking, oh yes, somebody's actually picking up on this, eh?
Aye.
And he got the story out of me, and he told me another wee story for doing south, about basically a Silverman, but tiny.
Aye, I've heard the other stories.
It was the guy seen it, his mirror rig,
Aye.
and it overtook him on the inside, and just
At the end of the day, that's, I think, Silverman's story, brilliant, ideal. I mean, and mental story, amazing.
well,
I mean,
it's I've only told you the.
and that
That's
was,
like the intro.
and that was the thing when I was started looking into stuff like in that kind of
Yep.
realm. You know what I mean? And I was looking down south at what's happening and elsewhere, and then that popped up, and I was like, you know what I mean? And this area, you know what I mean? You know yourself, it's like steeped in loads of different lore that's going on everywhere. You know what I mean? And this, even the hills up here date back to. Does Cairn Papal date back to the burial mounds at 5,000 years? Or
Aye,
something like that?
the Bronze Age.
Yeah.
They're actually they were 2,500 years old at the time they built the pyramids. When that's incredible.
Aye, well, that's what I'm saying. It's like
Ken.
it's,
There's only two actually, like Cairn Papal.
It's one of the oldest
There's
ones.
one
aye,
in
it's like-
Arborlaw in Derbyshire. It's bigger, but it's made exactly the same way, and there's only two like that. So it's unique.
Aye, totally.
But I had a campaign to open that up to the public. I had to take Historic Scotland on and get it opened up. So that's another story. Historic Scotland. Whoa.
But that's what I'm saying. It's interesting with that. Like you find that's the same that happens. With, like, I'll send you a couple of links onto the Paul Sinclair stuff. I mean, his stuff in Yorkshire and that quite a lot as well.
Truth-proof.
It's
Truth-proof.
truth-proof.
Aye,
Aye,
that's right.
There's
aye.
burial mounds and all that as well. Right,
Right,
there's
aye.
always stuff from the burial mounds. There's UFOs.
This
There's
is-
like cryptids and all that kind of stuff. And
This is what happens when
And,
you get seriously into it.
and it's like,
you
and
get
the
into
thing is though,
arguing.
it's like you get these reports coming from say normal, level-headed people, you know what I mean?
Aye.
And it's just, and there must be something there. The people, I mean, if they're seeing these things, you know what I mean? And that's it. It's
My first incident when it was happening when I was 5. Ken, and these things I had dreams, missing time when I was 5, and it's went on for there. I mean, I can't say why. I don't know why, and I can't tell you what happened. But all I know is I went missing for between 7 to 12 hours, and I was round the corner for my house. This is when
this
they
is
were.
Bog Hall.
This is Bockhall when they were really building Bockhall. And at
So
the
just
time,
for the audience, if there's an audience listening, Bog Hall's probably about a mile from here. But mile and a half.
It's
innit?
a mile and a half.
Aye,
mile and a half south, which maybe accounts for some of the strange sightings in Bockhall, especially
I
Limefield.
definitely I've heard a few bits up there as well.
Aye, there's some strange things going on in Limefield. But it's only like a hop, skip, and a jump. The actual sighting of the Silverman is like the intro of the story. It's only the intro, eh? But as I say, over the years, and this has been with me, it wouldn't go. I done my psychiatric training, psychiatric nurse. Later on, I got into, I went and got my counselling, professional counselling qualifications, etc., etc. All the time I've had this in my mind, always, you know. And I thought I'd love to get regressed. I'd love somebody to take me back. And I couldn't afford to go to somebody. I couldn't afford it now. And you're talking £60 an hour or something for these things. So I thought, I got into hypnotherapy. I was always learning, I loved learning, and it was like, what's the next progression for psychiatry? I got a diploma in alcohol and drugs and things like that, and moved over to counselling and marriage and family, bereavement, blah blah blah, all the different aspects of that, nursing, counselling. Take it the next step was going to be hypnotherapy, and for a while I had my own wee business going. Then I do counselling and hypnotherapy. I'm also a Reiki master, so if people wanted to get a healing, I could do that as well. But it was always in the back of my mind about still wanting to be regressed. And I didn't realise, like, I've got the tools to do this. And it finally dawned on me, like, could I regress myself? I don't know if it's been done before. So I thought, right, really, I'm a big advocate for self-hypnosis. So I thought, if you use self-hypnosis as a basis, again, for relaxation and all that kind of stuff, learn the techniques for regression, take yourself back. So I thought, what else have I to lose? So I started regressing myself, going back to Tesco's. I started at Tesco's. I thought, oh, this is going to be a long process. So I made it a week, 2-3 weeks, I was at Tesco's, and I would see myself driving up through Bathgate, and I'd maybe get up to the reservoirs, Petershill, and stop, and then take it back, and then do that for a week or two, and get it in my mind that this is what's happening, I'm seeing it all. So all the time I'm saying, am I imagining this? You do.
You totally, you question yourself.
So eventually, cut a long story short, I eventually come up to the crossroads, and I could see myself and hear the kids. What way do we go, left or right? And I could hear the winds, oh yeah, go left, go right. So again, it's a process, and I came up through, I got up by the Clintonstein. Then I'd sit that for a few weeks, and I'd keep going back to that point and stopping. I thought, I'm not going to push myself here. Keep going, keep going. Eventually, I came to this area to see the Silverman. Right? That was the easiest bit because he was already there. That was so simple.
Just a wee bit of it. See when do you reckon it was? I know you said it was like plasma type. Was it? Could you see through it? No, you couldn't see through it. So it was
I'm going with like a split.
Aye.
But it was a solid form, a solid whitish plasma, and as I say, it was scrolling at me. But my wife is the same thing. She saw the same thing.
Aye, I understand.
But the regression thing, I got myself up to the corner here, up to the top of the hill, and I thought, this is brilliant. This is the bit I want to see. Why does my memory stop for this bit? I wanted to get to that point where my memory stopped. And so after weeks, possibly months, to take myself doing these things, I arrived round the corner. The bit I showed you up there, that was important.
Yeah.
I arrived round there, and I thought, this is it. What's in front of me? What direction did I go? Did I go up or did I come back? This is really what I wanted to know, because it just didn't exist. Well, as I go there, I'm looking, and right in front of me was a big black, like I see a square, it wasn't a cube, it was like a rectangle, matte black rectangle across the road. It was like somebody's put a card in front of your eyes.
I understand.
And I thought, whoa, what's this? And I lost it, because it gave me such a shock that I kind of came to. And I thought, wait a minute, if I'm imagining
so it was like is it like a blank screen, or was like
it was a big black,
or was it a black?
It was a black object, right? It's as I say, as if somebody's put a black card up in front of your eyes. It was like that. So I'm thinking, all the time I'm thinking, I'm imagining this, I'm imagining it. But I thought, wait a minute, I never even dreamt about a black square. Again, I thought, that's got to be real. You know, like, I didn't think that up. Again. So I tried again. I thought, right, this is my regression. I'm in charge. I'll decide what's going to happen. So I got myself back there. And there, of course, there's the black square appeared again. It was above the road. Again, out of the fence into the trees. It's quite big. And I thought, okay, I'm going to go round it. In my own mind, I'm going to go to this black square and I'm going round it to see what's there. So as I went round the black square, The black square elongated. Right, and I thought,
It got bigger,
it went that way.
stretched now.
Right, so I couldn't get by. I thought, oh, right. So I stopped. I thought, no, leave it. Back the next night, I tried again. I thought, I'll try the other side. Same thing, same result. So over a period of a week, I tried to go under it. I tried to go above it, and it just kept expanding. And I thought, this is a mental block.
Mm-hmm.
And if I've lost time, if I've lost memories, somebody's put that mental block there, and I'm not good enough to get rid of it. I gave up. I couldn't get by this black square. Right, and all the time I'm thinking, I'm not imagining this, because you know, driving all the way up here again, and you can think, well, that's your own mind, you're just seeing it, you're dreaming about it or whatever. But no, this came out of nothing. This came out of no my imagination. This happened. That was there. And I even tried going back to my bike crash up the road a bit, and I tried that with all this time, and I eventually got some success with that one, but that's a different story, eh? But the silver one stops with the black square.
You don't get any further than that.
I cannot get by the black square.
You convinced it was a kind of something external that's put that into your memory?
I think it's a mind block.
Or could it be the shock that you've kind of...
No, I do. Personally, for what I know now, I would say that when the alien abductions and things like that, and I'm not saying I was abducted with aliens, because I've no proof of that. I don't have one shred of proof yet. I've got proof of missing time, but I've not got one shred being inside a ship or anything like that. A couple of things I've seen during my regression when I tried my bike crash. That's, as I say, it's a different story, but I did see something there.
Aye.
You know, and that taking a bit of effort to do that. But I did see beings coming towards me as I was lying on the grass. Yeah.
Was that a bad crash?
At the time I thought it was. That's a very complicated story, it's a very long story. You know.
Another episode. Another episode.
Well, it can be another episode if you want, because it's convoluted. It's a very convoluted story, and it goes on. There's a big period of time where I just basically never thought about it. It was a bike crash, It was weird, but it was a bike crash.
It's funny though when things happen to people as well, in terms of even sightings, how even with people together and that, and they'll tend to, we're hearing a lot of reports, they tend to forget about it and not talk about it. You know what I mean, between themselves as well. You know what I mean? I know it didn't happen in yourselves, I mean, you talked about it stuff, but that does happen. And it's like, and then they maybe talk about 2 days later. They're like, why did we not even mention that then? And talk about stuff.
There's things, things. Even me, as I say, I've been going like this for 5 right through my life, and even now, things I'll think back and, wait a minute, why did I not think of that? Why did I not see that? Again, but if you're into the alien abduction scenario. With all the false memories and screen memories and all these kind of things they put in your mind, again, they're masters at manipulation.
Even when you look at it, if you look at it in a sense where if somebody had erased your memory for the day before, like even forget about even alien abduction, and you went to the shops or you went to something and they replaced it with something else, like going to the fairground or something like that, and then gave you the next day. If you put it in that scenario, and then if you're thinking back, did that fairground actually happen? If you remember the fairground, you're like, but that actually happened, was that there, was that a dream? You wouldn't know, because it's like the day later. And it's you put it in that kind of context and think about it in a sense, a normal thing. Even if it was a normal day, or it was like, rather than getting snippets of some kind of encounter, if it was a normal day and somebody erased that day and replaced it with another day, and you had memories of that day, and you'd be like, did that actually happen?
It sounds pure sci-fi, doesn't it?
And it is, but when you actually put it in that context, it's something actually, even like in a normal sense, you would question yourself even if that happened and all that kind of stuff. And you had snippets say like a fairground or something coming through. Did I actually dream that? Did that happen? What did I do yesterday? Can't remember.
See what you've got there is my life. You would question yourself, and I've questioned myself most of my life. You know, at 5-year-old, I've got memories. I seem to be able to recall. I can remember when I was 2-year-old, bouncing down a set of stairs on my pram, and going to head up Merseybank Street, going along and hitting the road, and a woman grabbing my pram. I can remember that. It's incredible, but I can remember my rains and all this kind of stuff, and I can remember actually the house. So I've got that capacity to recall. Other things I couldn't tell you what happened yesterday. Ken. But I can tell you what happened back then.
But my wife's always, she's got a selective memory. How can you remember that? You can't remember
Exactly,
this.
aye.
It's like some of the obscure things I remember, and she'll be like,
But
"How
my
can you
age, my
remember that? You can't
memory's
remember this."
going to starting to go anyway, because I can't remember what I done yesterday. You know what I mean? But for years ago, my 5-year-old escapade when I was time there, that's completely there. I can see what happened, but I can't tell you what happened in this big bit in the middle. It's playing on a digger and boof. The next thing I know, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I knew I wonder if there was actually a digger there.
Aye.
It's a screen memory, I don't know.
Aye, totally. Aye.
I don't know, but there are 2 massive search parties out looking for me. I was round the corner, and there are 2 massive search parties out looking. And that was, I went for milk about, say 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Beautiful, I can remember it was a beautiful sunny day, red hot. And of course I went to Wilson's shop. People in Bathgate remember Wilson's. The shop's still there, but it's not Wilson's. But the quarry at Bathgate, new, I don't know, it's been a while since I've been down there, but I think there's switches in it now or something. But it used to be a real quarry.
Aye.
Right? All us kids went down there and played. There was no health and safety. We just went and played in the edge of the rim of this quarry. Well, I looked across, I got my milk, and I came out the shop and I looked across and I seen a nice shiny yellow digger on the other side of the quarry. And the next thing I know, I'm across the quarry and scrambling down the banks and up the other side. And I can even remember the smell of that digger. I'd seen the tracks, Ken. Climbing onto it. I had to clamber up onto these tracks, opens the door and I gets and I'm doing all this with the levers and the next thing I knew, I thought, maybe I better go home, it's dark. So I came out of there and I went the long way home. I didn't just go home, I went a long way home, right round the streets. And I met a guy there who was on his gate, Cal Martin his name was, I can remember. And he said, where have you been? Or words to that effect. And I says, been like 5, I went, playing on a digger. And he says,
Been going for how long again?
well, he says, the Folklore cause looking for you, you know. And then I knew I was in trouble. He says, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, oh, again. So I went up. We lived at the top of the school, the Bathgate Primary School. So I went down and I seen all the lights was on in the house. And this size, I goes in, and my father was quite an imposing guy, and I was like, I've had it, kid. So I goes in, and the house was absolutely just full of people. There was hundreds of folk in the house. And of course, I just opened the door and walked into the living room, and all these people were there, and my mother just let out a gasp, Ken, and she's howling and cuddling me and all the rest of it. And my dad says, right, come with me. And he took me by the hand into the bedroom, and I thought, this is it. This is it again. I'm never coming out of here. And all he done, he just sat down beside me on the bed and says, where have you been? I says, I was playing on a digger. And he went, okay. And that was it.
Mad.
But that went for, say, approximations of time.
Aye.
For about the 1 o'clock mark to 2 o'clock in the morning. So somewhere in between that length of time.
Not totally.
I'd been sitting, ostensibly, playing on a digger.
No eating, hungry, all that.
Nothing.
Stuff like that.
But the point with that too is that the digger was parked, like say, 10 years for the houses. There was a public path here, next to the digger. Nobody came down that. Nobody came out into their garden. There's a missing laddie in Bathgate. Nobody even looked through the back gate. Nobody appeared. I can't remember seeing one person.
You think they'd be down there looking and all that.
Again, it's a
kind of
busy.
stuff.
You take to come out for the other end of Bathgate to go to the shop.
Aye.
That way. Again. So there was various reasons why it still stays with me. But I can't tell you. I'm only telling you what happened because I can't tell you what happened.
Aye, totally. Aye.
In that
time.
intervening period. But as far as I can see, you could label it as missing time.
Aye, totally.
Again. So that was my first one. As a 5-year-old.
Getting somebody to arrest you to find out,
Well,
have a wee look.
as I say, I take to get a regression. It would cost me thousands.
And that's what we were saying yesterday as well. But I won't get to mention the guy's name. I mean, but it's like the one in Armadale we were talking about, and that happened in '94. Quite the police involved and all that kind of stuff. They'd seen something, and then basically when he got home, he'd basically missing tours,
That's
garden start,
it,
all that kind of stuff. Seen something,
But it's such a
but didn't get regressed. You know
Aye.
what I mean? And
it's
that's
such a strange phenomenon to happen in your life
Mhm.
that you just think, nah, yeah, get
But
on
the thing
with it.
is, it's
Go on
like,
with your life.
I think in some kind of sense, it's probably more widespread than people let alone.
I think it's
have
definitely
realised.
more widespread.
You know what I mean?
Definitely.
aye.
Again,
Mhm.
that's what I'm saying about disclosure. I think the time's coming. There will be disclosure, but no on our terms.
Aye. We get
It's not going to be our government
Get
that
disclosure, then we get
decides.
hit with loads of what do you call it? People want answers.
Well, the answers will come,
Because
but they're not going to like
obviously
them.
the thing is though, you get
in.
disclosure and stuff like that. For example, you get on sightings, but then you've got all the abduction scenario after all that.
Aye.
You know what I mean? Where do they go for
See,
that?
I'm no one of these believers in the fluffy bunny theory. They're here to help us and they're here to save the world and they're here to do this and they're here. I don't believe that for a minute. Don't believe it for a minute. And I think it's
If you're doing something,
I think it's disingenuous to say that to people to get them to believe it.
if you're doing something clandestine, you know what I mean?
Well, if it hadn't been, if it's so open and beneficial to humanity,
Why not tell us?
they would have come out and done this at the start.
Why would they not circumvent the government?
Well, why do you need them? They
Exactly.
certainly don't.
Yep.
Then
that's
it's
it.
great
That's
if you
the thing,
can get
it's like why if it's to your benefit, why do it clandestine? I mean, for what's going on. I mean,
well, aye,
it's
it's,
good influence, stuff like that.
it's beyond clandestine.
Oh, totally, aye.
Beyond it.
Aye.
But we've got all the technology. You're,
And that's the thing is now, you know what I mean? And the thing is, and that's what probably the governments and that are going to start realising, that like, the technology that people can accumulate now are going to supersede the government by what we can actually find.
Aye.
See, you're seeing now, you know what I mean? The imaging and that, and the cameras and thermal imaging and all that kind of stuff
That's
that
right.
we can get now.
Aye.
And
My theory is that the more technology we get, the less freedom we get.
that's true. That's true in a
Again,
sense. You know what I mean? But
It's supposed to be
But-
everything's for
I mean,
your
I'm-
convenience.
I mean, in a sense where for recording and basically having the ability to actually track things and see things and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
I mean,
And
aye.
Okay,
Aye.
So, thanks very much for the Silverman story and all the other stories, and I'm sure we'll be in touch again in the future. And
Well,
for more.
I could give you a volume.
Info off you, you know what I mean? But
You're the first person I've met who's had an experience, David, and it's been fascinating. And I would love to meet up with you again in a better environment inside, maybe
so
a more controlled environment.
There's one thing I love is having a discussion on, we'll call it paranormal, but to me it's normality.